Okay, besties, let's go way, way back. Like before BTS, before Blackpink, before TikTok fan cams. We're talking about first generation K pop, the OG era. From 1992 to 2002, this was the time that started it all. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with it compared to later generations. I wasn't bumping candy in kindergarten or doing chair choreography to Shinhwa after school, but I've been listening, researching, and girl, it's a whole world. So I'm taking you through the key groups, iconic moments, and of course, my favorite songs from this gen. Just a quick heads up though, I'm not including any song snippets. My storage can't handle that many audio files, and there are over 50 songs in this video. Trust me, I wanted to, but my storage said no ma'am. So if anything sounds interesting, pause the video, look it up, or save it to check it out later. You might find a new old fave. Also, if you guys want me to create a playlist with all the songs from this video, let me know because I will do it for you guys. But if no one requests it, I will not do it because why am I wasting my time for? Also, this is super important. If I mention an artist or group that's had controversy, please let me know in the comments. I'm not an expert on everyone's history and I don't want to hype up someone harmful. So if there's drama, spill the tea respectfully and let's talk about it. Cool? Cool. Let's talk about the very first generation of K-pop. Because if you're going to break down the history of this entire genre, you have to start at the beginning, and trust me, the beginning is wild. The 90s and early 2000s K-pop scene was messy, experimental, and honestly kind of magical in how it set up everything we know today. The first gen is where the idol system got built. It's where the blueprint was written for all the groups, fandoms, and music trends we see now. But it's also rough around the edges because nobody had a clue how big this thing was going to become. They were basically inventing K-pop on the spot. So, picture Korea in the early 90s. The country was still adjusting after decades of military dictatorship, and young people were hungry for something fresh, something that felt theirs. American pop and hip hop had been seeping into the culture, but there wasn't yet a Korean version of that. Until Seo Taiji and Boys came out in 1992. These guys are considered the spark that lit the fire. They mixed rap, rock, and dance with lyrics that actually talked about social issues, which was unheard of at the time. Their music freaked out adults and connected with the youth instantly. In a way, they're like the prologue to K-pop. Not technically first-gen idols, but without them, we wouldn't have the idol system at all. Now, once companies saw the hype Seo Taiji and Boys created, they realized there was money to be made. That's when entertainment agencies started forming idol groups. SM Entertainment, YG Entertainment, DSP, JYP, those names start popping up in this era. The formula became clear. Train young talent, form them into polished groups, give them catchy songs, and build fandoms around them. Sounds normal now, but back then it was brand new. Let's start with HOT, HOT, because they're often called the first true K-pop idol group. They debuted in 1996 under SM Entertainment, and these guys were basically designed to capture the hearts of teenagers. They had the coordinated outfits, the synchronized dances, and songs that spoke directly to the struggles of youth. Fans went absolutely crazy for them, and fandom culture, as we know it, started really with HOT. People weren't just listening to the music, they were buying the merch, learning the fan chants, and screaming at concerts. If you've ever seen a sea of light sticks today, that's the legacy of first-gen fandoms. Another huge name from the era was Sexkais. They debuted in 1997 under DSP and immediately became HOT's rival group. Fans literally picked sides. Either you were Team HOT or Team Sexkais. That kind of competitive fan war energy is something we still see all the time in later gens. Their music leaned a little darker and more serious, and they were known for their sharp choreography. Even years later, when they reunited, fans still screamed like it was the 90s again. That's how powerful that first impression was. Then you've got SES. one of the most iconic girl groups of this generation. They debuted in 1997, also under SM, and they were basically the blueprint for every girl group that came after. SES had this sweet, fairy-like concept, almost ethereal, and their songs were so catchy. They competed with another powerhouse group, FIN-KL, who debuted in 1998 under DSP. FIN-KL had a slightly edgier image, and one of their members, Lee Hyori, later went on to have one of the most legendary solo careers in K-pop history. The SES versus FIN-KL rivalry mirrored the boy group wars happening at the same time. Shinhwa is another group you absolutely cannot skip when talking about first gen. They debuted in 1998, also under SM, and while a lot of their peers ended up disbanding, Shinhwa is legendary for staying together. Even after leaving SM, they kept their name, kept performing, and are still technically active decades later. That kind of loyalty made their fandom incredibly devoted. Their songs had more mature vibes compared to some of the earlier boy bands, and they built a strong reputation as performers. And then you have Boa, arguably the soloist who changed everything. She debuted at just 13 years old in 2000, also under SM, and she wasn't just successful in Korea. She completely broke into the Japanese market, which was a massive deal. At that time, Japan's music industry was way bigger than Korea's, and Boa basically became the face of Hallyu, the Korean wave. Without her paving that road, later groups like TVXQ, Girls' Generation, or even EXO wouldn't have had such an easy time going global. Boa is often called the queen of K-pop for a reason. There are so many other names worth mentioning: Turbo, God, Baby, VOX, Vox, Do, Jin-Yu-sun, Jong-hwa. They all contributed to shaping what K-pop could sound like. Some leaned into hip-hop, some into R&B, some into bubblegum pop. It was messy, yes, but that's also what made it so exciting. The industry was throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. Now, let's slow down for a second and get into some of my personal favorite first-gen songs because, while I admit I'm not as deep into this era as I am with later generations, there are definitely tracks that stuck with me. Ones I've rediscovered through covers or newer versions. So here's my list. Coming of Age Ceremony by Park Ji-yoon. Iconic and bold, this song was way ahead of its time in terms of concept. Wild Eyes by Shinhwa, dramatic, powerful, and it hits even today. Listen to My Word by Papaya, such a fun, cheerful vibe that captures the lighter side of first gen. Hey, Come On by Shinhwa, classic boy group energy, pure 90s nostalgia. Candy by Hot. This one I actually discovered through a cover, but the original is so playful and catchy, it's impossible not to include. Poison by Jong-hwa. She's a legend, and this track shows exactly why. Invitation, also by Jong-hwa. Sleek, stylish, and full of charisma. Dreams Come True by SES. I first got into this through aespa's cover, but going back to the original made me appreciate it even more. ID, Peace Be by Boa. Debut era Boa, showing her talent from the very start. Phone Number by Jin-Yu-sun. A classic hip-hop track that shows how varied first gen really was. Ari Ari by Lee Jong-hoon. Experimental and completely unforgettable. Number 1 by Boa, one of her most iconic songs, and honestly, still a bop. Do You Love Me by Boa, softer but still impactful, showing off her vocal side. Turn Around and Look at Me by Do, smooth and timeless. 10 Minutes by Lee Hyori, technically post first gen, but too iconic to leave out. Lee Hyori changed the game for solo female idols. Orange Girl by Love, sweet and underrated, but worth a listen. Wing by Blackbeat, full of energy, pure 2000s goodness. Be Natural by SES, the original version. I know Red Velvet's cover gets a lot of praise, but the source material is still gold. Better by Boa, a more recent track, but it connects to her first gen roots. These songs are so special to me because they show the range of what first gen was doing. From bubblegum pop to sultry R&B to early K-pop hip-hop, it's clear the genre was still figuring itself out, but that experimentation is what makes it so fun to revisit. One of the things I really love about first gen is how raw it feels. The production isn't as polished as what we're used to today, the fashion is all over the place, and the music videos are sometimes unintentionally hilarious, but there's charm in that. You can literally see K-pop being invented piece by piece. The idols back then didn't have the training systems we see now. They were learning on the job, and somehow it worked. And like I said, first gen also built the culture. The whole concept of an official fandom name, that's from this era. The idea of fan chants and synchronized cheering, first gen. The insane merch buying, lining up for hours to see your group, sending protest trucks when you're mad. Okay, maybe not the protest trucks, but the roots of all of that stan behavior are in this generation. At the time, a lot of these groups went through struggles. Contracts weren't fair, management was harsh, and the ideal of idols as products was being tested for the first time. You can see the cracks already forming, cracks that would become full-on controversies in later generations, but even with those issues, first gen laid the groundwork. When you listen to songs from this era, you can hear the DNA of modern K-pop. Groups like BTS, Blackpink, or Stray Kids didn't come out of nowhere. They're standing on the shoulders of HOT, SEXKAI's, SES, FinKL, Shinhwa, and BoA. First gen might feel distant, especially if you didn't grow up with it, but it's worth knowing about. It's the foundation, the reason we all have the groups we love today, and honestly, some of these songs still slap. But now we enter the world of second generation. The era that a lot of people, including me, call the golden age of K-pop. We're talking 2003 to 2012. This is when K-pop went from being a national trend in Korea to something that started spreading across Asia and, slowly but surely, around the globe. It's when fandoms got bigger, concepts got sharper, and production got way more polished. If first gen was about inventing the idol system, second gen was about perfecting it and selling it to the world. And right at the start of this era, in 2003, you get TVXQ, also known as DBSK. These guys are basically the blueprint for what a perfect idol group looked like at the time. 5 insanely talented members, crazy visuals, powerhouse vocals, choreography tighter than your jeans after Thanksgiving. They weren't just a K-pop group, they were the K-pop group. Their fandom, Cassiopeia, was literally in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the largest fan club in the world at one point. That's how huge they were. And I've got to pause here for a second because one of my favorite songs from any generation comes from them. I'm talking about Neurotic. The moment those first notes hit, you just know. The vocals, flawless. The dance, iconic. The styling, peak 2000s, but in the best way. It's honestly the song I think of when I think of second gen K-pop. But they've got more, like Before You Go, which is one of those dramatic ballad dance mixes that only second gen could pull off. TVXQ set the bar, but they were not alone. Right behind them came Super Junior. Debuting in 2005, they were marketed as a group with endless possibilities. Like, seriously. They started with 12 members, then 13, and had subunits for every style. Trot, R&B, Mandarin songs, you name it. Their big breakout, Sorry Sorry in 2009. That sorry hook is burned into K-pop history. Now, I know, Super Junior has a reputation for being problematic. Some members over the years have been tied up in scandals or said questionable stuff. If you enjoy their songs, no one's going to crucify you, but it's good to be aware of the context. That's something I want to keep in this breakdown, acknowledging when an artist has baggage because fandom history isn't all sunshine. Then you get Big Bang, debuting in 2006 under YG Entertainment. They were a whole new flavor. Instead of just polished pop, they leaned into hip-hop, fashion, and self-producing, which made them stand out big time. G-Dragon, Top, Taeyang, they were all personalities as much as they were idols. Big Bang had bangers on bangers, but let me highlight a few. Lies, which was one of their first big hits. Haru Haru, if you want a ballad that'll crush your soul. And then songs like Fantastic Baby later on that basically became global memes. Personally, I still have to single out Taeyang's Wedding Dress. That song is heartbreaking, smooth, and timeless. Still one of the best solo releases from second gen. On the girl group side, second gen was absolutely stacked. Let's start with Girls' Generation, SNSD. Debuting in 2007, they quickly became the nation's girl group in Korea. And honestly, they deserve it. Their discography is stacked. G basically took over the entire country. Genie, aka Tell Me Your Wish, had everyone copying their leg dance, but the ones I personally love the most, Run Devil Run, The Boys, and You Think. Those three are peak confident SNSD energy, and they still go so hard today. Sorry, I love SNSD. Then you have Wonder Girls, who also debuted in 2007 under JYP. They were the queens of retro concepts, pulling from styles from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, making them feel fresh. Their biggest international moment was Nobody, when they actually performed on US shows and even toured with the Jonas Brothers. But my favorite from them are Tell Me, Be My Baby, and Rewind. Honestly, I had to cut myself off there because I could list like 10 more. They're just that good. And we can't forget about t-ara. They were especially massive in Japan, sometimes even bigger than in Korea. Their song Step is one of those tracks that just screams peak second gen. Colorful, upbeat, choreo-focused. To Anyone has to be mentioned. Debuting in 2009 under YG, they brought girl crush energy before girl crush was even a term. They were edgy, bold, and unapologetic. I Am the Best is the anthem. That gunshot sound effect, iconic. They showed that girl groups didn't always have to be cute or sweet. They could be fierce and intimidating too. And if you want something a little more experimental, we've got Brown Eyed Girls. They debuted in 2006 and went viral in 2009 with Abracadabra. Not only was the song catchy, but the arrogant dance move came so huge that even Psy borrowed it for Gentlemen. Now, let's pause again for a list of my personal favorite second gen songs. Here we go. Myrotic, TVXQ, all-time favorite of this era. Before You Go by TVXQ. Step by t-ara. Run Devil Run by Girls' Generation. The Boys, Girls' Generation. You Think, Girls' Generation. I Me Mine, 4 Minute. Bubble Pop, Hyuna. Yes, I love the song, but Hyuna marrying someone tied to the Burning Sun mess was such a disappointment. He wasn't accused of directly doing crimes, but he was in the group chat and didn't say anything, which is its own issue. Ma Boy by Sistar 19, Lucifer by SHINee, Y Si Fuera Ella. Jonghyun, one of his most emotional performances, always hits hard. Danger by FX, I Am the Best by 2NE1. Again and Again, 2 p.m. My House, 2 p.m., a later release, but one of their smoothest. Lies by Big Bang. Wedding Dress by Taeyang. Superman, Super Junior, great song, but again, problematic group history noted. Fiction by Beast. I Go Crazy Because of You by t-ara. Figaro, 9 Muses. 2 Different Tears, Wonder Girls. Tell Me by Wonder Girls. Rewind by Wonder Girls. Be My Baby by Wonder Girls. Love Wonder Girls. Bad Girl, Good Girl by Miss A. Dr. Feelgood, Rania. This one stirred controversy for being too provocative at the time, if you could believe that. Miniskirt by AOA. They technically debuted late second gen, and yeah, AOA's company history is messy, especially with Mina's bullying revelations, so keep that context in mind. Full Moon, Sunmi feat. Lena. 24 Hours, Sunmi. And that's my list. And yeah, some of these artists have baggage, which we gotta acknowledge. It doesn't erase the impact of the music, but it does complicate the legacy. So what made second gen so addictive? Part of it was the music, part of it was the concepts, but a huge part was the internet. This was the YouTube generation. Suddenly you didn't have to live in Korea to watch an MV or a live stage. You could see it from anywhere. G or Nobody going viral on YouTube is why international K-pop fandom started growing. This era also gave us light sticks, photo cards, subunits, variety shows, and all the things we see as normal in K-pop. By the time EXO debuted in 2012, the transition to 3rd gen was already happening, but 2nd gen left behind a catalog of music that still feels fresh, and honestly, if you told me to make a playlist for someone brand new to K-pop, half of it would be from this generation. It's the golden age for a reason! And if you were around for this era, congratulations, you're old like me, but also you witnessed greatness in real time. So let's dive straight into the 3rd generation of K-pop, because this is honestly where so many people, including me, really started to feel like the whole genre just exploded worldwide. Like, 1st gen built the house, 2nd gen gave us the foundation and the blueprint, but 3rd gen is when K-pop turned into this massive skyscraper and everybody was watching from the outside going, oh, wait a second, what is happening in Korea? Why are there these groups with insane visuals, music videos that look like Hollywood movies, and songs that won't leave my head no matter how hard I try? And it's true. The 3rd generation really marked that crossover from being popular mainly in Asia to being a global phenomenon. This is when K-pop stopped being a niche interest and started being that thing that you couldn't escape from online. Whether it was through YouTube, Twitter, or some random cousin showing you G by Girls' Generation, even though that was technically 2nd gen, but it stayed alive into 3rd gen because of the way K-pop spread across timelines. So, around 2012 to 2017 is when people usually say 3rd gen really kicked off, though obviously there's generations overlap and people argue about it all the time. Like, was EXO 2nd or 3rd gen? Was Big Bang actually still dominating in 3rd gen? Do we count Sistar's later hits here? All that. But for simplicity's sake, let's stick with this. 3rd gen was basically the rise of groups like EXO, BTS, Twice, Blackpink, Red Velvet, GOT7, 17, Monsta X, G-Friend, Mamamoo, iKON, and Winner. And then, a little later, Dreamcatcher, who's come in and said, by the way, we're going to mix anime opening vibes with K-pop and no one's stopping us. It's chaotic, it's diverse, and it's definitely my favorite type of era to just binge watch old music videos from, because every group was trying to outdo each other with the biggest choruses, the sharpest dances, and sometimes the weirdest fashion choices. Like, why was everyone wearing giant harnesses and ripped skinny jeans? It was a thing. And you can't even talk about 3rd gen without mentioning the way YouTube and social media basically changed the game. In 1st and 2nd gen, yeah, you had fan cams and music shows, but in 3rd gen, suddenly you had fan cams going viral. Like that one fan cam of Honey from EXIT doing Up and Down, and that single-handedly revived their whole career. That moment kind of symbolized 3rd gen for me. Like one viral clip could take a group from struggling to suddenly topping charts. Social media became the playground, fan bases became way more international, and fan wars? Oh my god, the fan wars. This is the gen when Stan Twitter really started, where if you said you liked one group, someone else would pop up and say, but did you stream our faves comeback yet? It was chaotic, sometimes toxic, but also kind of funny looking back because everyone was so passionate. K-pop became not just music, but also an entire lifestyle. And 3rd gen is when the lifestyle hit the West in a major way. Okay, let's talk groups, because this is where things really get spicy. EXO was huge, like SM really pushed them as the next boy group after TVXQ and Super Junior, and their debut with Mama was so dramatic, it felt like a whole Marvel movie. They had that 12-member thing going on at first, which was insane to keep track of, but it worked because fans loved picking their bias out of a lineup that big. Songs like Growl, Overdose, and later Call Me Baby, and Love Me Right became absolute anthems. And even if you weren't an XLL, you probably heard those choruses at least once because SM knew how to market. Then you have BTS, who honestly need their own documentary just for how they went from a smaller company's hip-hop inspired boy group to the biggest band in the world. Early on, they were the underdogs, and armies really carried them with streaming, voting, pushing them up in award shows until the whole industry had to pay attention. Songs like I Need You and Dope showed that they weren't just another idol group. They were saying something about youth, about struggles, about growing up, and it resonated worldwide. By the time they dropped Blood, Sweat, and Tears and DNA, they were not just K-pop idols anymore. They were international superstars performing at the AMAs and later the Grammys. Third gen is the BTS gen, no matter how you slice it. And then Twice came in to completely dominate the girl group scene with bright, fun, catchy songs that got stuck in your head instantly. Their debut, like Ooh Ah, already showed potential, but then Cheer Up with the Shy 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 line basically took over Korea. After that, it was TT, Signal, Likey, Heartshaker. Basically, if Twice breathed, they had a hit. And their popularity in Japan with Candy Pop and TT, Japanese version, was massive too. They were the group your non-K-pop friends would probably recognize because the songs were just that unavoidable. Twice embodied the fun, bubbly side of third gen that balanced out the darker, edgier concepts going on elsewhere. Speaking of edgy, you had Blackpink, who debuted under YG in 2016 and immediately became the group. They only had a few songs at first, but Boombaya and Whistle were everywhere. Then came Playing with Fire, As If It's Your Last, Do 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 Do, and eventually Kill This Love. Blackpink was like YG's girl crush answer to Twice's bubblegum vibe, and it worked perfectly because they had the swagger, the visuals, and the production to back it up. Even with the smaller discography, they managed to become one of the biggest girl groups in the world, breaking YouTube records left and right. Then Red Velvet, who were honestly one of the most versatile girl groups ever. They could go from creepy horror-inspired concepts like Peekaboo and Russian Roulette to smooth R&B tracks like Automatic or dreamy songs like One of These Nights. They lived up to their name. Red for their bright pop side, Velvet for their sultry side. Honestly, Red Velvet doesn't get enough credit sometimes for how they pushed the creative boundaries of what a girl group could do conceptually. Also, their vocals are insane. And we can't forget about GOT7, who were wild on stage, like the kind of group that you just knew was going to climb scaffolding or throw someone in the air mid-performance. Songs like Just Right had that wholesome energy that made them lovable, while Hard Carry showed off their intensity. They had a really strong international fan base too, especially in places like Thailand because of Bam Bam, and they kept that global connection alive throughout their career. Other groups worth shouting out, 17, who came in with 13 members and 3 units and somehow made it all work. Their self-producing idol concept really resonated with fans, and their choreography was just next level. Monsta X, who went with a harder, more aggressive sound, like if you wanted gym music in K-pop form, they had you covered. G-Friend, who started with innocent schoolgirl vibes, but backed it up with insane synchronization in their dances. Mamamoo, who had powerhouse vocals and were known for actually being able to sing live, which, let's be real, not every idol could consistently pull off. Winner and Icon both coming out of YG's survival shows, giving us hits like Really Really and Love Scenario. And NCT, who debuted toward the tail end of third gen with this whole limitless member concept, which was confusing, but also fascinating. Like they were trying to create a rotating K-pop universe. And of course, Dreamcatcher. I have to give them their own little moment because they completely went against the grain of what was popular at the time. While groups were chasing tropical house trends or girl crush concepts, Dreamcatcher came in with rock guitars, dark fantasy storylines, and music videos that looked like horror films. Chase Me, Goodnight, Fly High, those early songs set them apart instantly, and their fandom, Insomnia, really built them up internationally because even if Korea wasn't giving them tons of wins, fans around the world recognized how unique they were. They kind of represent that third-gen underdog energy, but with a cult following that carried them forward. Now, third gen wasn't all sunshine. This was also the era of 7-year curses, contract disputes, member departures, and some really tough times for idols who were under insane pressure to perform and keep up with non-stop comebacks. But it's also the gen that made K-pop a permanent fixture in the world stage. Whether you were a hardcore stan or just someone who stumbled on TT once on YouTube, you felt the impact. And now let's slow it down and get into some of my personal favorite third gen songs, because this is the fun part. These are the tracks that I keep going back to, the ones that got stuck in my head for weeks, or the ones that just hit different for whatever reason. So here's my list. Like Ooh Ah by Twice, the debut that started it all, fun, colorful, and instantly addictive. Signal by Twice. Yeah, people clown the song, but honestly, it's one of my guilty pleasures, quirky in the best way. Strategy, featuring Megan Thee Stallion by Twice. Mixing Worlds, iconic, and I'll always have this one on repeat. Because by Dreamcatcher, creepy, hypnotic, and exactly why I love them. Bon Voyage by Dreamcatcher, dreamy but still dark and a perfect blend. Black or White by Dreamcatcher, concept queens, no notes. OOTD by Dreamcatcher. Okay, yeah, I said I'd stop, but they're my fave third gen group, so expectations must be made. Automatic by Red Velvet, smooth R&B vibes, pure Velvet side, never gets old. In My Dreams by Red Velvet, a B-side gem, ethereal and underrated. Cosmic by Red Velvet, another dreamy one because Red Velvet just does it best. Tempo by EXO, that beat switch, are you kidding me? Iconic. Overdose by EXO, peak EXO energy, still a stadium anthem. Call Me Baby by EXO, catchy and confident, pure third gen nostalgia. Python by GOT7, chaotic but catchy, very GOT7. Shutdown by Blackpink, sharp, bold, instantly commanding. Lovesick Girls by Blackpink, emotional but still a bop, shows their range. Pretty Savage by Blackpink, self-explanatory, they ate. Classified by Oh My Girl, mysterious, underrated, so good. Bet Bet by Newest, sleek, stylish, deserves more hype. Fantasy by VIX, dramatic, theatrical, exactly what VIX does best. Icky by Card, cheeky and bold, Card always brings something different. Touch by Card, so underrated, oh my gosh. Run by Card, energetic fun, always gets stuck in my head. Hip by Mamamoo, playful, powerful, a whole anthem. Gotta Go by Chungha, Solo Queen, this song is just perfection. Boom Boom by Momoland, viral, silly, but honestly a classic. And that's just scratching the surface. Third gen gave us so many hits, so many moments, and honestly, it's the era that made me fall in love with K-pop in a way that goes beyond music. It was the culture, the fandoms, the performances, the chaos, and the pure joy of discovering something every other week. Third gen is special, no doubt about it. Alright, don't close the tab just yet, because if you thought this was intense, just wait till we get into 4th gen. The drama, the noise, the debuts every other Friday? Yeah, things are about to get real wild. So let's just put it out there right now. 4th gen is my favorite generation of K-pop. No debate, no arguments. Music-wise, this is the era that had me fully locked in, refreshing YouTube at midnight for new MVs, scrolling fan cams on TikTok, and screaming at live streams like my rent depended on it. Every generation before had legends, sure, but 4th gen? This is where the whole game leveled up. What makes this era so different? Well, officially, 4th gen kicked off around 2019. It didn't have one big flashy start date like, hey, welcome to 4th gen, but you could feel the shift happening. Suddenly, there were groups debuting with sounds that didn't quite fit the mold of the 3rd gen idols we were used to. Instead of polished idol pop that felt safe, 4th gen groups came in swinging with experimental beats, chaotic energy, and concepts that made you either go, what did I just watch? Or, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Usually both at the same time. And let's be real, 2019 was stacked. TXT arrived under HYBE, instantly branded as BTS's little brothers, but quickly carving out their own identity with their dreamy, youthful, almost storybook concept. JYP threw ITZY into the ring, coming out guns blazing with Dala Dala, a song basically screaming self-confidence over EDM chaos, and then not too long after, SM dropped aespa with their AI avatars and the whole metaverse concept. That confused half of us, but also made us go, wait, this slaps. Meanwhile, Cube gave us (G)I-DLE, who pulled the rare move of self-producing their tracks, which instantly set them apart. Over at KQ Entertainment, ATEEZ exploded into global attention with pirate flags, fireworks, and choreography that looked like cardio on steroids. And then we got ENHYPEN, fresh from the survival show Island, who leaned into dark vampire boyfriend aesthetics. You couldn't escape it. Suddenly the industry felt crowded but alive. Every other week, it felt like a new group was debuting, and they weren't just decent, they were actually good. Here's the thing about 4th Gen. It's not just about music. It's about digital culture. Previous generations used social media, sure, but 4th Gen lives in it. TikTok dance challenges, viral fan cams, Twitter stands uniting like an army to trend hashtags worldwide in seconds. That's 4th Gen. These groups knew how to connect with fans in a way that felt more direct, more chaotic, and way more fun. And because of that, they blew up globally faster than any generation before. Now, let's talk about the pandemic. COVID hit right when 4th Gen groups were making their mark. No concerts, no fan meetings, no tours. But instead of fading out, they thrived. Virtual concerts became a whole thing, fan signs went digital, and groups doubled down on putting out content. Reality shows, vlogs, behind-the-scene clips, it made us feel like we were actually hanging out with them during lockdown. That level of access changed the fan-idol relationship forever. And the competition? Absolutely brutal. The market is saturated. There are so many groups that if you blink for 2 weeks, you might miss a debut that ends up topping charts. That forces groups to get creative, either with insane concepts, risky genre-bending music, or just viral marketing. And we eat it up. That chaos is part of why I love this generation the most. Okay, let's break down some of the key groups that defined this gen. TXT, obviously, with their storytelling, heavy music, and B-sides that are secretly masterpieces. ITZY, queens of empowerment anthems and non-stop choreo. aespa, blending high fashion vibes with virtual lore and addictive tracks. (G)I-DLE, who keep proving idols can run the creative show themselves. ATEEZ, literally carrying the live performance scenes on their backs. ENHYPEN, the definition of glow up since debut. IVE, redefining what a girl group hit sounds like with songs that are part pop and part hypnotic earworm. Les Seraphim, the unstoppable force with music that just doesn't miss. And then there's New Jeans, who basically rewrote the rules of what K-pop could sound like with their Y2K minimalist groovy style. And don't forget Stacy, Kepler, Nimix, Purple Kiss, Pixie, Luna, and all their subunits and sub-solos like Eve and Chu, plus boy groups like Stray Kids, Treasure, Cavity, The Boys. The list is endless. This era is crowded, yes, but it also means the amount of music we get is overwhelming in the best way. Now, since I promised from the start, let's get into some of my absolute favorite 4th Gen songs. Brace yourselves because this list gets intense. Les Seraphim's entire discography. Yes, the whole thing. They're my favorite 4th Gen group, no question. But to name a few specifics, Ash, The Great Mermaid, Crazy, Choices, the Japanese release, and Kawaii. Also Japanese, and I swear I'm done before I list everything. TXT classics like Blue Hour, Good Boy Gone Bad, and Dreamer. ATEEZ's energy with Work, Bouncy, and In Your Fantasy. aespa tracks that hit different like Whiplash, Dirty Work, and Armageddon. ITZY bangers like Untouchable, Mr. Vampire, 24 Hours, and yes, Cherry, because how could I not? IVE's killer run with Hypnosis, TKO, and OTT. (G)I-DLE being iconic with Uh-Oh, Super Lady, and Flip It. Luna's Flip That, Eve's See You in Hell and hashtag, and of course, Viola. Choose Brightside with Strawberry Rush and Kiss a Kitty, but also the more emotional Only Cry in the Rain. NMIX's flawless run with High Horse, Know About Me, and Golden Recipe. Basically, that whole EP is perfect. Purple Kiss, Slaying with Sweet Juice, Autopilot, and Take. Pixie's Darker Side with Villain, Karma, and Addicted. Yeji with Air and Invasion. iZone, Nostalgia with Fiesta and Secret Story of the Swan. Yena's Love War, Wicked Love, and Good Girls in the Dark. Joyuri's Taxi and Round and Around. And Hyphen's Bad Desire, Bite Me, and Sweet Venom. And let's not forget, New Jeans' entire discography deserves a crown. Every single release feels like a cultural reset. I know that was a long list, but that's kind of the point. 4th Gen is overflowing with music that just hits different. It's the variety, the risks, the endless content, and the fact that every group is out here fighting to be the next big thing. And for me, it's the generation that made K-pop feel exciting in a way that I hadn't felt in years. So yeah, no question asked, 4th Gen is my favorite. But the thing about K-pop is, it never stops. Just when you think you've seen it all, the next wave comes crashing in and suddenly you're sucked into a whole new chapter, and that's where we are right now, the 5th generation of K-pop. This gen is still fresh, still writing its story, but wow, it's already coming in loud. If 4th Gen felt like chaos in the best way possible, 5th Gen feels like stepping into the future. Everything is shinier, faster, and honestly, a little weird. In a good way. It's like K-pop decided, okay, we've dominated the world already, what next? Oh, I know. Let's change how music even works. So, when exactly did 5th Gen start? Most fans and industry folks point to 2023. That's when the debuts started piling up, and you could feel this shift, like, okay, 4th Gen groups are established now, they're running things, but these new faces, they're not just filling space. They're here to shape the next era. It wasn't some official cutoff moment, more like the vibe switched, and we all felt it. So, what makes this gen different? Honestly, a lot. First off, technology is on another level. 5th Gen groups aren't just dropping MVs, they're dropping VR experiences, AR enhanced stages, AI generated teaser campaigns, all these things that blur the line between digital and real life. Sometimes you don't even know if what you're watching is live, pre-filmed, or half animated, and that's the point. It feels futuristic. Musically, it's also wild. Hyperpop, trap, drill, funk, retro Y2K, even experimental electronic. 5th Gen has no genre rules. Groups are pulling from everywhere, sometimes in the same song. 1 second you're vibing to smooth R&B, the next it's a dubstep breakdown, and then suddenly a ballad outro. It's chaotic, but somehow it works. Another big thing, individuality. Older gens used to push group identity first, like, you're a member of this team. Now it's about each idol being their own brand too. Solo tracks, personal content, subunits. It's all about letting fans connect with the individuals as much as the group. You see it in styling, choreography, even marketing. Each member stands out, and that's intentional. And of course, globalization. 5th Gen doesn't wait years to test waters overseas. They debut ready for the world. Multilingual songs, international promo right away, TikTok dance challenges targeting global audiences. It's baked into the strategy. These groups aren't just Korean acts hoping to go global. They're global acts from day one. Now, let's talk groups. The heavy hitters that came crashing in around 2023 and said, yeah, we're 5th Gen and we're here to eat. Hybe is obviously still running the game. Under Cause, we've got Boy Next Door, playful, youthful music you can blast on a summer road trip. They're not trying to be dark and edgy, they're just giving that Boy Next Door charm, but with solid music. Over at Hype, Elite debuted with this dreamy, girly vibe that feels soft but catchy. And while not technically 5th gen, people still confuse New Jeans as one because they dropped in 2022 and literally changed the whole scene with their Y2K minimalist sound. Then you have SM's Rise, who came out swinging with Get a Guitar and Talk Saxy. They're polished but fun, pulling in different genres and giving fans that SM level performance power. YG finally broke their long silence with Baby Monster, basically Blackpink's little sisters, but with their own flavor. They've already proved they can do powerhouse vocals and hard-hitting rap lines, and trust me, they're only getting started. And let's not forget smaller companies making noise. KQ gave us Psychers. If you thought ATEEZ was high energy, these guys said, hold my mic. And groups like 8turn, XLove, and All Day Project have already built fandoms by doing their own thing instead of copying trends. And then you have girl groups carving new lanes. Triple S is redefining what a K-pop group even is, rotating members, fan participation in deciding sub-unit lineups, and a concept that feels like an idol multiverse. You can't even compare them to traditional groups because they're literally inventing something new. Then there's Kiss of Life, Lucemble, Luna's daughters basically, and Elite pulling softer concepts that still dominate charts. Now, what do I love about this gen? The sheer creativity. Every comeback feels like a gamble. Sometimes you're like, what is this noise? And then 2 plays later, it's stuck in your head forever, and I live for that. Speaking of, let's go through some of my absolute favorite 5th gen songs so far. Jealous by Elite, sweet, catchy, the kind of song that makes you feel like you're floating in a K-drama ending scene. Click Clack, Billionaire, and Hot Sauce by Baby Monster. Honestly, they just came out swinging. Are You Okay by If I, underrated, but it hits. One and Only by Boy Next Door, chill but catchy. One and Only and Business by XLove, low-key addictive. Get a Guitar and Talk Sexy by Rise, instant classics. Style by Hearts to Hearts, slept on but solid. Tic Tac by 8turn and Tricky House by Psychers, both high energy tracks that go crazy live. And pretty much everything from Triple S, but especially Girls Capitalism, Are You Alive, Girls Never Die, and Rising. Oh, and Sour Patch by Hit G's. It's new, it's fresh, and it deserves more love. These are the songs I keep on repeat, and the thing is, this list will only keep growing because 5th gen is still just starting out. We're literally watching history being written in real time. Another fun thing about 5th gen, the fan culture. Standing has always been intense, but now it feels even more interactive. Fans aren't just streaming songs, they're influencing concepts, voting on lineups, creating fan projects that actually impact the industry. Some groups, like Triple S, literally depend on fan participation to decide their path. It's not just idols shaping K-pop anymore, it's idols and fans building it together. And yeah, with all the new groups, it can feel overwhelming. Like, do we really need 10 new debuts every few months? But honestly, yes. Because it keeps the industry alive, competitive, and exciting. Some groups will rise, some will fade, but the variety means there's always something for everyone. Looking ahead, I think 5th gen is going to be remembered as the experimental era, the one that pushed the limits of technology, blurred the lines between idol and fan, and showed us just how global K-pop can be. It's the generation where even the smallest groups can go viral overnight, where AI idols might actually chart, and where music keeps reinventing itself. So buckle up, because if this is just the beginning, imagine where we'll be in 5 years. 5th gen isn't just the future, it's happening right now. And that's where I'm gonna wrap this one up. I had so much fun breaking down the generations of K-pop and reliving all these iconic songs and groups with you, but now I wanna hear from you. What are your favorite tracks? Who's your ultimate bias? And did I miss anyone you think deserved a shout out? Drop your thoughts down below because I love reading your takes. Oh, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, comment K-pop never dies. So I know you're one of the real ones who stayed with me through this entire ride.